So, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Consciousness Transformed. Great that you're here and that you decided to join today. So today we continue with the Between Two Worlds tapes of Joel. And this one is 547b. And still we're in the two worlds. So there's material sense and there's spiritual consciousness. And so how to deal with that, how to look at that, where do you place yourself, what do you see, what is actually God, and Joel comes with all these kinds of questions today, and looking at everything, like what is actually consciousness? That's also a question that will come up, like what is consciousness, and what is in fact erecting us, like what is making us walk, what is making us look around, what is happening, what is that, what is occurring. That's really like a very fundamental teaching is this time, and Joel keeps it very practical, and that's kind of interesting to take a look at, especially because we're actually totally in the middle of a spiritual process and a spiritual journey. So yeah, so here we find ourselves today in the interesting talk, as I can say, is like Joel gives so many examples of how to look at things, and for one thing he asks a lot of questions. I've never seen any talk with so many questions. So if you can ask the question, so the answer can come to you. Like you cannot ask a question without being able to receive the answer. So Joel must have gotten a lot of answers here. And so hopefully we will pick that up too, in the sense of, oh, that's no longer a concern, or, oh, I'm letting go of thinking that I need to figure this out, or who knows what your response might be after hearing all this and going through this. Now, we take a specific look, and this is after the meditation, we take specifically a look at the idea of consciousness, because that has to be very clear, of course, like what actually is consciousness. I'm conscious that I'm sitting in a chair here talking to you, but is that what consciousness is? Is that spiritual consciousness? And so on. So there's a lot to discover and a lot to become clear. If it isn't clear, it will become clear. And so that's why we come together. And everything that is happening in our process has a certain direction, and you know this very well. It's like it seems like you have signed a contract with out of time, and this contract is a contract for salvation. Like there's a plan, God's plan. It's working perfectly, and that's why you're here, and that's why you continue on the path. And everything that's occurring now is related to that experience. Your experience of whatever happens during your day is directly connected with coming to the freedom of the reality of who you are. Everything is included in that. So there's no coincidence in that sense of what is occurring. And that's really comforting. So if you see it all in the light of healing, then it starts to make perfect sense. Now we keep this in mind when we say read and listen to Joel and all this. Now I found in the book Consciousness Transformed, I found this section that I really want to use as a contemplation today. And so let's start with that, to become so quiet that, at least your mind is still and receptive and open, so that you have a good possibility that is happening when we contemplate what we're actually taking a look at now. So this is an excerpt from Spiritual Discernment from the book Consciousness Transformed. It came from 1963, the Hotel Talk. When you know the name of God and you abide in it in secret and relax in it, just like we do now, and let it be your protection, your support, and your supply. The moment the thought of lack or limitation arises, you can smile in the realization, I am the bread, the meat, the wine, and the water. Or the moment some serious disease comes to your attention, either in yourself or in someone else, you can again smile. I am life eternal. I am the resurrection. When death touches you or others around you, you can smile. I can lay down my life. I can raise it up again. I can walk in or I can walk out. If you destroy this temple, in 3 days I will raise it up again. Only with this can you completely repeat with the Master, I have overcome the world. Rome or the Sanhedrin may still exist for you, but for me, I have overcome the world, and nothing shall enter my consciousness that defileth or maketh a lie. Whether I live on this plane or on another plane, I will still live and I will be about my Father's business. I lived before I was born. I was about my Father's business before I was born. I lived on earth and forgot about my identity until I was awakened to it. Yes, I will never leave you in life or in death. So be not concerned as long as you know the secret name of God and the secret of the nature of God in you. Thank you so much for joining. That's so lovely. So now we have sufficiently become quiet, and now we take a look at things. So like, what is this consciousness? Like here this, like, what can enter your consciousness? What can enter your consciousness? That depends on what you value, right? It depends on what you value, what can enter your consciousness. If you value anything in the world, what do you see? You see a world. When you allow ideas of sickness to come into your mind, what do you see? You see sickness. If you allow ideas or you value ideas of death and limitation, what do you see? Like, that's inevitable. That's a law of consciousness, you could say. Now, if I release those ideas that are temporal, what will I see? Life eternal. Now, how do I do that? Because apparently, if I keep it very simple now, but it's like, apparently you have a choice in the matter, what you want to see. And you say, like, well, I don't want to see sickness. I don't want to see death and limitation. Well, what's the matter here? Now, here's one thing what Joel is teaching a lot about, and that's the idea of a universal consciousness of human thinking, like human ideas, like an impersonal cloud of human ideas that are that you can drag down, almost like you drag it down, you value it, and what do you see? You see it. And this, Joel doesn't teach it exactly the way I do it, but it comes down to the same thing, because it is exactly what is occurring. Like if you say like, well, I'm impersonalizing this, as Joel says, like impersonalize it. How can you impersonalize it when you have seen it? That's difficult. You cannot do it. It's like, it's not only difficult, it's impossible. You have already given it value, and now you see it. And you say like, well, I don't want to see that. I don't like sickness. I don't want that to be around. Now here, I literally placed it there. I placed it in my consciousness because I valued it, whether that's positive or negative. I valued it in some kind of way. Now the way out of that, it is like you cannot distinguish between right and wrong and all this. Like the sorting out that you use is not very helpful. You can say like, well, I don't want to see sickness. But then it stops for you, because literally you cannot correct yourself, or you would have. If you would be able to correct yourself, you would have done so. Why would you need war? Why would you need limitation, sickness, pain, death, losing the ones that you love, and the whole riddle? Like, you cannot do that. Simple as that. So in your consciousness, now we're talking consciousness, you have allowed these ideas to come into your consciousness, value them, see them as real. You literally see them as real. It looks very real. You go into the hospital for some kind of examination. That is very real. You see that somebody passed on. That looks very real. You have no question about that. That's your reality. Huh? So let's be honest with each other. It's like, that's simply what you experience. You're a human being having a human experience. That's why you see it. That's why you live in it. That's why you think that is your reality. So the part where the change can occur is that you see it and don't know how to get out of it. But in fact, it's like asking for healing. Like, I certainly have no need to see this. I need help here. I need to, there must be a different way of looking at all this. See, there's no other way to get out of it. So in other words, my consciousness is transformed when I allow the correction to take place in my consciousness. Otherwise it cannot transform. If I hold on to my identity, on my own self-definition, if I hold on to the things that I value, nothing will change. Simple as that. Nothing will change. If I release those ideas, and in the trust that there's help that can come now, because my consciousness is open and receptive, but I don't know how to get rid of my thoughts at the same time. But that is taken care of, you could say. It's like the correction can take place by your release of the ideas that you held on a moment before, esteeming it as your identity, esteeming it as your reality. So this is, say, the part where we enter into the talk of Joel, what we're going to listen to today. Joel goes in the direction of, first he starts with an idea of atheism. It's like, well, atheism, like the ones that call themselves atheists, have one step forward to the ones that are embedded, like deeply dedicated to religion, because they actually think there's a God, but this God doesn't exist. At least an atheist is not, say, dedicated to that God. Well, let's see what Joel has to say. Presence filling all space is the title of this meeting. Presence filling all space. It isn't easy, Joel says, after you have been steeped in centuries of worship and adoration of a false image, to come to a place in your consciousness where you can acknowledge it and ask yourself, what is God? What is God? Not who is God, but what is God? That would be bringing up another false image if you ask who is God. Substituting one false image for another. But what is God? What is omniscience? What is omnipotence? What is it? Now, these are very good questions, like what is that? Because I don't know what that means. I had an image of God, and it isn't the God that actually exists. Like that image was a false image. Now, what is God? I want to have an answer to my question. So this is great for contemplation, of course. And you probably have done this. Like, what is God? What is omniscience? What is omnipotence? All these. What is omnipresence? Now Joel steps into this. He says, think for a moment of the word omnipresence, all presence, presence filling all space, presence where I am, whether I make my bed in hell or in heaven, or whether I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm in the presence of God. What is that presence of God that is with me in heaven or hell or death? Like, you cannot put a finger on it. As you can maintain this question in your mind without fear that there is any God going to punish you for it, as you can divest yourself of faith in that which has never warranted your faith, and seek an answer to the question, what is presence that is always with me, whose pleasure it is to give me the kingdom, that which knoweth my need even before I do, that which goeth before me to make the crooked places straight, that which prepares mansions for me. What is it? You see, this is great to ask these questions and to let them come up in you, in your consciousness. Like, what is it? I want to receive that. I want to see that. I want to immerse myself in it. Like, I don't have to have an understanding, as in an intellectual understanding of what it is. No, I'm taking a different route this time. I'm waiting for that to be revealed to me. I'm not trying to figure it out what it is. I'm not trying to redefine it or something. I'm not trying to make another image. That's what I would do if I define it. When I'm not defining it, I recognize its divinity. That's the interesting part with defining. You would limit it. Now this is undefinable, but it's divine. So it's like that is a revelation. That is something that's going to be imparted to you, in you, and you recognize your own part in it. Like it starts to communicate when you receive this. It becomes a recognition on such a deep level that your consciousness is completely changed by receiving that. That is what is being offered by Joel. Now he brings you in this talk, he brings you in that question. He brings you, and he gives more and more and more examples, and he shows you, like here, what is occurring in your consciousness. What are you looking for? Really, it's like, what are you looking for? Are you willing to let your old ideas go? Are you not afraid to ask what is God and to let the answer come to you? But you will have to ask. You cannot receive that by not asking. And this is like almost like a taboo in the infinite way world, if there's such a thing. It's like there's a taboo on asking for something, asking something. And here you miss out completely if you don't ask. Like, how would you make your presence known? You will have to knock the door in order that the door can be opened for you. Here it is too. Ask, and it shall be given. Ask and it shall be given. You will have to ask, because that's exactly the place where you will receive the answer. But it's literally the universe is waiting for you to ask that. So Joel has no problem with that, with asking questions, obviously. So this talk is full of it. It's full of questions, more and more and more. Why? Because you get an answer. When you can even feel it when you read the questions. You become already excited because you're entering into a place where the answer can be given. It is just for you to sit on the edge of your seat and start to receive it. That is the offering here in the talk. Now it is that is the action in listening to Joel. This is not a regular listening to a conceptual teaching to receive more concepts so that you intellectually know what's going on. No. This is to release all your concepts about it and receive an impartation, and receive a revelation. What is a revelation? A revelation is a direct contact with God that literally releases fear and doubt for a moment completely. In other words, you're suddenly fully open and receive what is given. That is an answer. And then you have no doubt what omnipresence is. Then you have no question about what omniscience is. This is what is the offering. Otherwise you miss all of that. If you didn't ask, it couldn't be given to you. I speak from deep experience. Luckily, I discovered that works that way for me. I can ask and literally receive an answer. This is so for you too. So there's no shame. You're not doing anything wrong when you admit, I don't know. Please show me. There's no failure in that at all. No, it is the way to receive answers. Why not acknowledge that our only hope is that we may find that which, in setting us free individually, will prove to be that which will ultimately embrace the entire world and set the world free? Because if someone doesn't find the secret of freedom, how can freedom be given to all? This is your individual responsibility, you could say, to accept that first for yourself. Because you can hand it out to everyone, but you will have to accept this first for yourself. You have to accept it in terms of an experience. What is it that is present where I am? Present where I am. What is it that is present where I am that I cannot see and cannot hear, taste, touch and smell? Because throughout all time no one has seen it, heard it, tasted, touched it or smelled it. What is that presence? Otherwise I would have been discovered before now. It would have been discovered by others than the mystics who attained it. See, it's what is that presence? I literally cannot do that myself. Otherwise I would have. I would have checked it out. So it's not visible. In other words, it has nothing to do with my ideas about who I am, or my ideas of who my brother is, or what this dream is, or what is going on, really. It has nothing to do with my idea of what God is, or even what consciousness is. I would just replace concepts about it, and thinking that one concept is better than another. No. So this can all go aside. You don't need any of that, is basically what Joel is saying. Otherwise you would have discovered it, and you didn't. That's why you don't need the understanding, a conceptual understanding of what it is. It doesn't matter what an omnipresence is conceptually. It doesn't give you any information. You can listen to it for another 10,000 years and you wouldn't get it. So here you want that to be revealed to you, and revealing to you is a total experience of your communication with God. That is what that is. It cannot come any other way, otherwise it would be limited. And reality is not limited in any kind of way, so it has to become a total experience, or it is nothing. And a total experience has nothing to do with definitions, with understanding, with thinking that you know what it is. Not at all. So this is tough. You know, it's a really tough teaching in that sense, but it takes care of something here, something that you have sufficiently used up in your experience, which is your ideas about yourself and your world. I have overcome the world. To you, Rome and the Sanhedrin still exist. I have overcome the world. That's what Jesus said in the meditation today. Like, I've overcome the world. That has everything to do with, what is the world? The representation of my ideas about what I think I am and what I think everything is. I invest in it by acknowledging it, by placing myself in the same situation where I find sickness, limitation, death, and all this ephemeral, all this temporal objects, ideas, concepts that are changing all the time. Now, change in this sense is good because you're going to let go of these ideas. You're going to release those ideas in order to allow a change of your consciousness. A change of your consciousness is literally having a whole new configuration of consciousness. One that is aligned in a vertical way, not focused horizontally. No, it can literally not come to you if you're aware of where you truly are and what you truly are. It cannot come to you. The world would be of no interest to you. Like, now you don't have to play that out. Now it is like, ask for what you want to know. What is God? What is omnipresence? What is that? I want to experience the nature of God. What is that? I want to be in a direct communication. And it's like the wanting to is more like I invite it into my experience by releasing everything else I think I know about it, so that there's space in my consciousness for that to occur. So I don't have to figure that out. It's not an action I take. No, it's a receptivity and open-mindedness, like I'm opening my consciousness for that. And I knock on the door. I ask. I want that to be my first priority. I really want to receive that completely in my consciousness. Now, ask and it shall be given. Like literally, if that is your soul, if that is the only thing that you want, the answer is immediate. It doesn't take time. And that is the amazing thing. It's like, if you have a total desire to want to hear that, to experience that, then it can immediately be given to you. Now here it is, like, don't hurt yourself with the idea that it might take a moment. That's perfectly all right. In reality, there's no time. So what is the delay? Not really, there's no delay at all. So there's no force in it. You don't want to force this. No, you want to gently invite this into this very, very vulnerable spot inside yourself, where you can be open, where you can be defenseless, where you feel free to release your ideas about what everything is and who you think you are. In that, say, in that still place inside yourself, you become, say, revelation ready, you could say. You become receptive to have a direct communication. Now this is the offering that Joel does. He tries to express that with all of his might, all of his examples, all of this. So that's absolutely absolute respect for Joel, the way that he teaches it. So thank you so much for letting me ramble a little bit about this, and I can't wait to listen to Joel. We'll listen to the first half hour, since this contains so many of the examples, and it's an interesting talk.
Good morning. If you will notice, in what we call the atheist countries today, that the atheists are actually those who are in some way in government, the upper brackets of society in those countries, and that the masses are still religionists. The masses are still crying for churches and for their old religions. And as always, the masses are stupid. The atheists aren't smart in being atheists, but they are smart in having come to the conclusion that there is no such God as religion teaches. They have awakened to the fact that there is no such God as is taught in the religions of the world, and they have the courage to throw it out. If they actually believe there is no God, of course, they're more than stupid. But I doubt very much that there is an atheist on earth who believes there is no God. I'm convinced that they have only awakened to the fact that there is no such God as has been preached to them. And indeed there isn't. When we come to a place in our spiritual development, when we realize how impossible it must be for there to be such a God, or when we acknowledge that the God of the last 4,000 years, or the gods that have been worshipped in the last 4,000 years, Hebrew gods, Christian gods, Buddhist gods, just are not answering the prayers of people, are not wiping out wars on earth or bringing peace on earth. Whatever of longevity is being demonstrated today, and in this last half century, human life expectancy has gone from 40-some years of age to beyond 70. But by increased knowledge in materia medica in different forms, a better understanding of foods, cleanliness, sanitation, to each one of us there comes a difficult moment. Unfortunately, that moment lasts longer than a moment. It may last days, weeks, or months before we can suffer through that agonizing period of recognizing that we and the world at large have been deceived with concepts of God, erroneous concepts, false images, to the extent that at least one half of the ministers of a large denomination are willing to admit that a new image of God must be presented to the people. Why? Because that which has been presented has not been God, but an image, and a false image. As false as the golden calf of the Hebrews of old. And as the golden calf had no capacity to answer the prayers of the Hebrew, so the gods of these last 4,000 years have had no power, because they were as false as the golden calf. It isn't easy, after you have been steeped in centuries of worship and adoration of a false image, to come to a place in consciousness when you can acknowledge it and ask yourself, what is God? What is God? Not who. That would be bringing up another false image, substituting one false image for another. But what is God? What is omniscience? What is omnipotence? What is omnipresence? Think for a moment of the word omnipresence. All presence, presence filling all space, presence where I am, whether I make my bed in heaven or whether I make my bed in hell, or whether I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I am in the presence of God. What is that presence of God that is with me in heaven or hell or death? It is even said, not even death, life nor death, can separate me from the love of God. What is this omnipresence, which is at the same time all power and all wisdom? What is it? As you can maintain this question in your mind without fear that there is any God going to punish you for it, as you can divest yourself of faith in that which has never warranted your faith, and seek an answer to the question, what is this presence that is always with me, whose pleasure it is to give me the kingdom, that which knoweth my need even before I do, that which goeth before me to make the crooked places straight, that which prepares mansions for me. What is it? Because it hasn't done all of those things. What is it? It hasn't, because we haven't understood the nature of it, what it is, how it functions, and the nature of the prayer that unites us with it. If we haven't the courage to acknowledge that what has been given to us in the past 4,000 years has not stood up, has not answered, has not functioned, we never will be ready for the next step. We must empty out the vessel of our false beliefs and faiths and images in order that we may be refilled with truth. Has the world shown forth any evidence of an omnipresence, of a divine presence, an infinite power of good, an infinite power of eternal life, health, wholeness, harmony, peace, abundance? No, not individually and not collectively. Individually, in all ages, there have been some few, and some few followers of some few, who have attained the wisdom, the understanding, and the actual demonstration of omnipresence. Just because the gods of this world have failed the world, or just because the people of the world have failed the one God, let us not make the mistake of atheists and believe that there is no God. Let us rather acknowledge that we have not sufficiently searched and sought, but rather we have accepted the beliefs, the opinions, the theories that have been handed to us without questioning for ourselves. If freedom has any meaning at all, the most vital meaning must be the freedom to think, the freedom to seek, to search, the freedom to question, the freedom to discover, until we do arrive at the goal we are seeking. And that goal is life harmonious. Why should we for a moment deny that that is our goal individually, even in being here in this room? Why should we deny for a single moment? Why not be truthful and acknowledge to ourselves and to each other that we are here but for one purpose, and that is seeking life eternal, seeking that which will bring peace on earth to all men throughout all time, seeking that which will ensure freedom, so that freedom never again can be at the mercy of man whose breath is in his nostril. Why not acknowledge that our only hope is that we may find that which, in setting us free individually, will prove to be that which ultimately will embrace the entire world and set the world free? Because if someone doesn't find the secret of freedom, how can freedom be given to all? Has it not always been this way, that one individual discovered some truth, and then through that individual the world became aware of it, whether it was a spiritual truth or one of invention, science, discovery? Always it has been one individual to make the discovery, and then rapidly for that discovery to benefit all mankind. So it is that it should be the function of every individual who has been turned by the grace of God to the spiritual path to seek and to search until he arrives. Because if only one of us accomplishes this, it will set the entire world free. Just as the Wright brothers freed us from the limitations of the earth, Edison freed us from the limitations of darkness, DeForest freed us from the limitations of space and hearing, those who discovered the instruments of navigation certainly have freed us from the limitations of confinement. So, one individual discovering the secret of omnipresence, for this is the word, omnipresence. What is it that is present where I am, that I cannot see, hear, taste, touch, and smell, because throughout all time no one has ever seen it, heard it, tasted it, touched it, or smelled it? Otherwise it would have been discovered before now. Otherwise it would have been discovered by others than the mystics who attained it. What is it then that is present where I am? Whether I am comfortably situated here, or whether I may at the moment be in some hell of sin, false appetite, disease, age, or even death. What is it that can set me free? And in setting me free, release all mankind from slavery, from bondage to the five physical senses, from bondage to the limitations of the human mind. I asked a medical man this question: what makes it possible for us to stand erect? What makes it possible for us to stand on our feet? And his answer was, our muscles. What becomes of our muscles when we faint, when we become unconscious, when we die? Do we not have muscles? Yes, we still have muscles. Then why aren't we standing erect? Or why can we not stand erect? We have the same muscles when we fall asleep, same muscles when we fall unconscious. Now this answer, muscles, represents material sense, because to material sense this is true. We stand because of our muscles. The firmer our muscles, the harder, the longer we can stand. But once you have touched this other realm of consciousness, spiritual consciousness, you will discover that the muscles cannot keep you erect. So that you won't have to search as many years for the answer as I did, I'll give you the answer. The answer is the word consciousness. Consciousness enables you to stand erect using the muscles as instruments. There is nothing in the throat or mouth that can speak. You may have all that is therein and not have speech, because the muscles of the mouth and throat and lips cannot speak. Consciousness, using these instruments, consciousness is the secret of life. Consciousness is the secret word. Consciousness is the ultimate. Consciousness is the absolute. Consciousness is the creative source, presence, power, law, cause. Only when you reach the word consciousness do you have the entire secret of life. You cannot even have health without having first a consciousness of health. It is for that reason that our work in the Infinite Way is not demonstrating health for anyone, but rather demonstrating for them the consciousness of health. There is no way spiritually to demonstrate supply for anyone, regardless of how much money you may bring to them. It isn't supply, because even the largest amount of supply has a way of withering away. But you can bring to an individual or to this world a consciousness of supply, and then they will never lack. Those who attain the consciousness of health have health. Those who have the consciousness of supply have supply. Those who have a consciousness of music have music. Those who have a consciousness of art have art. Now, you may have the same body that a concert pianist has, or a violinist, or musician of any instrument. You have the same body, the same brains, the same arms, hands, and feet. You have it all. but you probably will never be a concert musician. Certainly not unless and until you attain the consciousness of the mastery of music. Anyone can learn to drive an automobile. As you can prove by the fact that more people have been killed by automobiles than by wars. But learning how to drive an automobile does not make you an automobile driver, and those accident figures prove it. Not everyone that can change gears and put their foot on the gas pedal and stop a car and park it is a driver. A driver is one who has a consciousness which governs the mind, thought, reflexes of the body. Without that consciousness, you have the potentialities of what happens on our roads. Business, just count the bankruptcies in every year, and you'll know how easy it is to go in business and how difficult to remain in business. Because it takes more than a sum of money. It takes consciousness. Now, the highest form, the basic consciousness, is the spirit. That which gives to us our wisdom, guidance, intuition, direction. That which even gives to us the reflex actions of the muscles. To understand consciousness will eventually enable you to understand the nature of omnipresence, because it is consciousness that is omnipresence. Without consciousness, you merely have the 5 physical senses and a human reasoning power based on experience. But with consciousness, you have access to the infinite wisdom, strength, power, government of God. The infinite, the eternal, the immortal. With this comes an understanding of the nature of prayer. Now, in our sense world, there is a person called I. I, Joel, for example. And I, Joel, want to do something, desire to do something, would like to do something, and if I'm not religious, in the orthodox sense of the word, I try to do it myself. I think, I plan, I hope, I save, and sometimes I get somewhere, never achieving the fullness of what I have in mind. Or if I do, I find it to be unsatisfying, sometimes even frustrating. If I am religious in the orthodox sense, I pray to God to help me. and I actually expect that there is a God that is going to help me do my will, get me my way. Of course, I am not considering, up to this moment, whether what I'm desiring or wanting is for my ultimate good or will enhance the happiness of my family or will improve the world, or even if it will not in some way harm some who are in the world. Many times a success in business means the failure of someone else. Heedlessly, I pray to this false image of God to prosper me in my way. Or my nation when it is at war. Or my nation when it is embarked on an erroneous economic program. Nevertheless, I pray to God for its success, and I pray in vain. With the first glimpse of the word omnipresence, there dawns in thought this: whatever this omnipresence is, it formed this universe. We have approximately 7/8 water and 1/8 land, and undoubtedly there is some reason for this. The stars, the planets move in certain orbits, and since this has been true for as many years as has been known, must be a reason for this. In other words, this omnipresence that formed this universe must at the same time be a divine intelligence, an infinite intelligence. Even if we look at the human body, no individual planned this system of heart, liver, lungs, and blood system, brain and nerve system. No human thought that up. No human laid that out on a planning board. There must be an intelligence that formed this human body. The human or natural laws of like begetting like, apples from apple trees, cotton from cotton plants, fish from fish, birds from birds, animals from animals, humans from humans, whites from white, black from black, and if you combine them, a combination of white and black. This is law, but man never made this law. Therefore, that which is omnipresence and is the creative power and law and substance and intelligence, this is omnipresence, and so we may say it has a plan.
All right. Thank you, Joel. Thank you so much. So thank you for being present here in this meeting together, the tape group. And thank you for your attention, for your being present here. And I hope to see you next week where we look at another tape. Thank you for everything and see you soon. Thank you so much.